Hi, I'm Patti Grayson, and I'm delighted to be here celebrating I Love to Read Month. I'd like to thank the Heritage Center for the invitation. I'm actually a resident of St. Andrews, and I'd like to acknowledge that I live and work on Treaty 1 territory. So for about 10 years, I was a librarian at the Lord Selkirk School Division. I've worked as an actor, and as well, I'm the author of 3 published works of fiction, 2 of them for adults. Autumn One Spring is my novel. Core Samples is a collection of short fiction. And Ghost Most Foul is my novel for younger readers about ages 10 and up. And I'm delighted to announce that I have a 4th book in the works due out this fall with Turnstone Press in 2023. It's entitled The Twistical Nature of Spoons. And I'm extra excited to be sharing an excerpt of it here with you today. So my new novel is told in alternating chapters from the perspective of 2 different characters, Ina, the mother, and Bliss, her daughter. However, their relationship is unraveling, and each of them is trying to come to grips with the situation they find themselves in by explaining their version of events with respect to some very special and unique spoons, hence the title, The Twistical Nature of Spoons. So I will probably be doing Ina a bit of a disservice today because I'm only going to be reading from one of Bliss's chapters. However, Ina's version of events will be available to readers later this year, so maybe she won't hold it against me. I hope not. The novel opens when Bliss is a first-year university student, but she's looking back at her childhood memories from the time she's about 5 and 6 years old. And so she's actually using her adult vocabulary, but referencing childhood thoughts. So you might notice a bit of a dichotomy at play here in this segment I'm going to read. You will get a sense of Ina, albeit from Bliss's perspective, and you'll also be introduced to one of the other main characters of the novel. So this is Bliss's chapter 3, and it's entitled Bliss, Splendent Tenants. I realize that something is afoot in the morning. Ina seldom shifts into high gear until later in the day, but she is tidying the kitchen at a frantic pace, wiping the counter behind the toaster and tea tins, emptying the overstacked dish drain. The kitchen is all a clatter. As she clears her latest craft sale project off the table, she dictates a list of what I need to pack for school. Lately, she has been leaving that up to me, insisting that it is the end of my kindergarten year and I should be acting more like a big girl, making decisions for myself. She no longer dips down onto one knee to fuss if my sneakers are on the wrong feet. I assume it is because she worries she will not finish painting sunflowers onto the stacks of glass votive candle holders in time for the summer sales if she does not delegate some chores to me. This morning, her actions make me anxious as I have no explanation for our routine's disruption, and I harbor the specific concern of her reverting back to verifying my backpack's contents for herself. Will she discover I have adopted a spoon of the day inclusion? She has always expressly forbidden this. Too many prying eyes, too many questions. I had stashed Daddy's spoon with its roller coaster handle into an interior zippered pocket. It will be hard to miss the collection's biggest spoon bulging next to my lunch bag. And although I am now expected to remember my clean gym clothes and saran wrap my own sandwich, Ina still enforces the rules. Recently, I have been very cautious, keeping my spoon family in their wooden chest, ensuring it is well hidden under my bed each day behind a pile of books. Knowing it will take a suspicious and deliberate search on my mother's part to discover a spoon's absence, I have summoned the courage to disobey her. Smuggling a member of my silvery family to class gives me a sense of security. Even though I keep them stowed in my backpack throughout the day, their adjacent proximity boosts my learning. The spoons often seem to be involved when I acquire some new awareness. Like the first time I remember printing my entire name was after seeing it on the stiff tag that accompanied Daughter Spoon on my 5th birthday. Bliss Sterling Trove. It seemed important to learn the correct order of all the letters for myself because that day, Ina told me that it was my father who had chosen my middle name before I was born, before he died. And that even if I had been born a boy, my middle name would still have been Sterling. I doubted Ina would have kept Bliss for a boy's first name, but what would she have chosen instead, Blister? I was never thrilled when Ina called me Missy Blissy, but Mr. Blister would have been far worse. I turned the tag over and spelled out my entire name without once peeking, happy to be born me. When a spoon is nearby, I also find it easier to imagine our conversations. Be nice to the other children, Bliss, even when they're being mean to you. That is Granny Spoon's sage reminder. Good work, I savor Mummy Spoon's praise. And Sun Spoon never fails to dish up distraction when the monotony of waiting in line and lying on blankets becomes tedious. Knock, knock. Who's there? Canoe. Canoe who? Canoe help with my schoolwork? And that clap, clap, clap is the applause that Daddy Spoon provides in music and gym. My evasive tactic, squirreling my backpack stash to the front door so Ina cannot discover Daddy Spoon, is what allows me the opportune first glimpse of Mr. Knowlton Fluxer's arrival. Through the hazy May drizzle, I see his ancient wood-paneled station wagon pull up on the wrong side of the street and park, nose backwards, at the curb in front of our house. Secured on the roof rack with bungee cords are a soggy assortment of cardboard boxes. He switches on his flashers. Struggling out from behind the steering wheel, he holds a spread open newspaper aloft in an attempt to keep his balding head dry. He momentarily abandons his makeshift protection to pat down his corduroy pants pockets. His keys are still in the ignition, however, and he leans back into the car, retrieves them, and grips them between his teeth in order to restore his newsprint tent. He closes the car door with his foot. As if this wasn't enough struggle, I have the sense that parts of him are falling off, and he is forced to retrieve them to piece himself back together again. In reality, Mr. Fluxer is intact and hearty enough with no apparent physical limitations, so my Humpty Dumpty sense of him is hard to explain. He looks up at our porch and spots me observing him through the window adjacent to our front door. Taking a deep breath, he draws himself up to stand straighter. At that moment, I believe I witness him exhaling. I learned subsequently that others ascribe the term aura to what I am observing, but I have no words for it at the time. If it is indeed an aura, it is my first. A dozen years will pass before I see a second. Mr. Fluxer's aura is the color of greasy spoon breakfast dishwater, a watery runny egg tinged yellow muddied with a dash of brownish grease. Having seen it, I cannot unsee it, even though it rapidly evaporates. Ina, I call to alert her that a stranger is making his way onto our porch. She barges ahead of me to open the door for him. Oh, come in, Knowlton. Wouldn't you know it would rain, of course. Mr. Fluxer reaches into his jacket pocket and produces an envelope. He bobs his head as he speaks for emphasis. The first and last month's rent, the rent plus damage deposit, an extra $100, correct? Ina summons some nonchalance as she receives the envelope, but I recognize an undercurrent of relief. He continues, I'm afraid if I carry everything upstairs, I'll be late for class. Could I leave the boxes on the porch out of the rain until after 4? I will need to take the doves upstairs, however. Best to tuck the boxes in the foyer here. I'd hate for someone to walk off with your stuff. I take a step out from behind Ina. Doves, I ask? You have birds in your car? Ina cuts in before he can answer. Knowlton, this is Bliss, of course. Bliss, this is Mr. Fluxer, who is taking the upper floors as of today. Mr. Fluxer pats at some wispy remainders of hair on the side of his head and says, very pleased, happy to make your acquaintance, Bliss. Then he nods with a barely contained enthusiasm. Yes, I have 3 doves that I will keep on the 3rd floor, less disturbance. They like to coo. The sound is soothing to some, not so to others. He glances at Ina in alarm and then addresses me. You're not afraid of birds, are you? I shake my head. He breathes out with relief, and I brace for visible color tinting the air around him, but there is nothing more than coffee breath mixed with wintergreen mint. I ask, what are their names? Did you catch them or buy them? But Ina shoos me off, saying Mr. Fluxer will be late for work if we hold him up any longer, and then with a bright enthusiasm which is clearly meant for his benefit, she adds, and Missy Blissy, time to be off to school yourself. Mr. Fluxer looks disappointed for both our sakes. He removes a pocket watch from his corduroy pants pocket, flips it open, grimaces, and heads out our front door. I jam on my rain boots and jacket, grab my backpack, thankful it has escaped inspection, and follow him as far as the sidewalk. From the back of the station wagon, he withdraws a large covered cage. And I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening and happy reading, everyone.